Do you know what rights drivers have in combat, how DRS works, and who made F1's best ever passes? This is your insider's guide to overtaking. Overtaking in F1 is like scoring a goal in football, and just like hitting the back of the net, a perfect move requires techniques honed over years of practice. So, first up, what is a racing line? It's the fastest route around a corner. In most cases, a wide approach, cut to the apex, then put the power down and push back out wide. Primarily, the racing line is the best route because it maximizes speed through the corner, therefore lessens the amount of time spent in the corner itself. You can then get back on the throttle as quickly as possible to keep your average speed as high as possible. There's also more grip on the racing line because cars lay down rubber as they drive around it, and they also scatter marbles of rubber that make it slightly more slippery offline. Why is slipstreaming good, but following in dirty air bad? The aerodynamics of F1 cars create swirling vortices of dirty air that trail behind them, and these can either be a huge help or total pain. The car's wings work best in clean airflow, so when a car is behind another, dirty air ruins downforce, reduces grip, and makes it difficult to follow around the corners. On a straight, where cars don't need downforce as much, a leading car, or toe, creates an air pressure gap behind them. This lack of air means there's less air resistance, meaning the following behind car can push forward easier than before. This is slipstreaming, and if the straight is long enough to make it work, it's one of the easiest ways to overtake. How does a driver plan an overtaking move? They either need a big car advantage or they need to think smart. Many moves are planned several laps before they happen, and most are set up a number of corners in advance. By following another car, drivers can spot their rival's weaknesses. If a car loses traction, brakes earlier, or uses or harvests energy at a particular place, that's an overtaking opportunity. Likewise, keeping check on how a rival ahead is adapting to tyre degradation, engine management, or coping with damage can also be key to a move. How does a driver make a move and make it stick? To go through a corner quickly, a driver must brake at a certain point to knock off enough speed to turn and follow the racing line. Brake too late and they will slide wide or spin off the track, or they'll need to brake harder, which could lock their wheels and, again, cause them to slide or spin. As the condition of the tyres and brakes gets worse, the drivers need to brake earlier, and that's an overtaking opportunity. To put the precision into perspective, at 200 miles an hour, braking 1/10 of a second late overshoots by 2 car lengths, a tenth earlier, and it's too slow, too soon. To make an overtaking move, the attacking driver must move offline at the entry point and dive to the inside or the outside. Either way, if they can stop the driver ahead taking the racing line, they can muscle their way through. The success of the move depends on what comes next. If it's a straight, as long as the exit speed is good, it's job done. If the next corner is in the same direction, the overtaker has the advantage, but the defender could still make it stick around the outside. Or if the next corner is in the opposite direction and the defender has enough momentum, it's their advantage. Before we explain which moves are fair and which are not, and pick the best passes of them all, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor for this series, Party Poker, who currently have a special sign-up offer. If you head over to the link in the description, open a new account and deposit £10 or more today, Party Poker will match it on deposits up to £400 and give you £40 worth of free play too. Only available if you are 18 or over, T&Cs apply, and please be gamble aware and play responsibly. So, back to overtaking. What's fair and what's not? Overtaking fairly is all about the right to space, but whether it's just a racing incident or goes beyond the limit is rarely clear-cut. That was clear to see in the closing stages of the 2021 season, when Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton locked horns again and again, often exceeding the track limits when doing so. In high-speed straight-line battles, drivers must give respect to each other's space, but this rule has been pushed to its limits many times. Remember Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell nudging closer and closer as their cars showered sparks in Spain in 1991? Or Michael Schumacher nearly squeezing Rubens Barrichello into a concrete wall in Hungary 2010? To make an inside overtake stick, the car must have its front wheel in front of the defending car's rear. To go around the outside, they must be side by side. Drivers can defend their position, but they can only move once. anymore, and that's weaving. And that's illegal, as it's a change of direction in a braking zone. What about DRS? What is it, and how does it help overtaking? DRS stands for Drag Reduction System, and these days lots of F1 overtakes happen at the end of a DRS zone. The device was introduced in 2011 to improve overtaking. It allows a driver to manually change the angle of their rear wing, reducing drag and getting an instant speed boost of around 20 miles per hour until they hit the brakes. It's only permitted in certain designated sections, only activated once 2 racing laps are complete, and can be used only when a car is within 1 second of the car in front. So, when are you not allowed to overtake? Sometimes overtaking is banned for safety reasons. It's not permitted on the formation lap, obviously because the race hasn't started yet. It's also not allowed in a safety car period, unless lapped cars are allowed to pass. In racing conditions, the only time overtaking is not permitted is whenever a yellow or double yellow flag is shown, and if a driver breaks that rule, there are serious consequences. What are F1's overtaking records? The most overtakes in a dry race was 161 during the Chinese Grand Prix in 2016. That day, a lot of top drivers started towards the back. The most passes for the lead was way back in 1965, when Monza's slipstreaming effects led to 41 lead changes. And 5 races have had no overtakes at all. Interestingly, all of those have been this century. They were in Monaco in 2003 and 2021, the US in 2005, although to be fair, only 6 cars started, Valencia in 2009 and Belgium in 2021, although that race was just 1 lap behind the safety car. Who was F1's best ever overtaker? Now, that's a tough one. It depends on the era because some eras encouraged overtaking more than others, but if you look at the lists, one name often appears a lot, and that's Nigel Mansell. He swept around Gerhard Berger on the banked Peraltada, one of F1's most fearsome corners, in 1990. He blasted past Williams teammate Nelson Piquet at Silverstone in 1987, and he used pure racer instinct to pass Ayrton Senna in Hungary in 1989. And that just about does it for our insider's guide to overtaking in Formula 1. With 2022's new era of cars on the horizon, the aero overhaul of simpler front and rear wings, a lack of barge boards, and the return of Venturi tunnels, F1's cars aren't necessarily being designed to make overtaking easier, but they are being designed for better racing. A lack of wing-based downforce and more reliance on the Venturi tunnels will mean dirty air won't affect cars as much, which in theory means cars will be able to follow and fight more effectively than before. And if that's true, then we're in for an exciting new era of Formula 1.